Paul did not know the future. He did not know when Jesus Christ would return. Jesus said when he was on earth as a man, he himself did not know the date of his second coming. So there's nobody who knows the exact date of Jesus' second coming. And a lot of people talk about it in the world, and the internet is full of people who predict when Christ will come. And any sensible Christian will call it all nonsense. Paul did not know. Paul said in 1 Thessalonians 4, he said, we who are alive will be caught up. 1 Thessalonians 4. That means he expected to be alive when Christ came. That's why he says we. He doesn't say those who are alive. He says we who are alive will be caught up. But that was written about 12, 13 years before he died in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 15. But by the time 13 years later, when he writes 2 Timothy, he knows he's not going to be caught up, because God showed him very clearly. We read in 2 Timothy in chapter 4, verse 6, the time of my departure is at hand. And I finished my course. So now I'm just waiting for the final day of judgment. I will not be caught up. So he knew, the Lord had shown him some way when he was in prison. Okay, Paul, you're not going to be alive till I come. You're going to die. But he did not know whether Timothy would be alive till Christ's coming. Because many of those people in the first century, Paul died around 67 AD or something. And there are many people who expected that before the end of 100 years, Christ would come. Paul did not know. If Jesus did not know, Paul certainly did not know. So he thought Timothy may be alive till the Lord's coming. So he warned Timothy. And of course that warning applies to all of us today, because we believe we are also in the last days now. He said, Timothy, remember this in 2 Timothy 3:1. Realize it, understand this very clearly, that in the last days, difficult times will come. And he's not talking about persecution. The Living Bible makes it very clear. It'll be very difficult to be a Christian. Now, there are many ways in which it's difficult to be a Christian, because there are a lot of jobs today where it's difficult to be a Christian, because you have to tell lies or cheat, or a lot of salesmen and accountants and all that have to cheat and tell lies in many jobs. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are people who live upright lives in all those places, and sometimes they lose their job because they are upright. But it's going to be very difficult to be a Christian because of those reasons. But that's not what he's talking about. He's not talking about it's going to be difficult to be a Christian, but there'll be much more persecution. There was a lot, hardly anybody has experienced persecution like Paul. He got 195 stripes on his back, stoned to death, imprisoned so many times, and people trying to kill him all the time. So that is not what he's talking about. I don't know if Timothy ever suffered as much as Paul. But he says it's going to be difficult to be a Christian in the last days because, listen to this, because verse 5, the people around you who claim to be Christians in your church, verse 5, will have a form of godliness, but not the power. The form means the dress, like I spoke earlier about the dress of humility, but not real humility. It's a fake. It's a counterfeit. And there he speaks about a dress of godliness. What is a dress of godliness? That means they'll speak the right language. They won't be non-Christians. They'll be Christians who say we are evangelical Christians. We are fundamental in our doctrines. We believe in the Trinity. We believe in being born again. We believe in water baptism. We believe in the baptism in the Holy Spirit. We believe in all the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and we are waiting for the Lord's coming and all that. That is the form of godliness. But it will only be a form. When Jesus spoke about a wolf in sheep's clothing, the sheep's clothing is the doctrine. Absolutely correct. But inside that doctrine is a wolf. A person whose nature is wanting to bite at others, grab at other sheep, look for the little lambs and exploit them. Well, there are Christians like that. There are pastors like that. There are preachers like that. Any pastor who tries to get money from poor people in his church, he's a wolf. I have no hesitation in saying he's a wolf. But he's got the right doctrine, and he's more dangerous when he has the right doctrine and is interested in, if a wolf comes into a fold, he's not coming there to bless the sheep. He's coming there to bite and take what he can from the sheep, bite off some of their flesh and eat up some of the sheep. And any person, whether he calls himself pastor, preacher, archbishop, or whatever it is, if he comes to take advantage of you, to get something from you for himself, maybe bring you under his authority so that you just blindly listen to him and you don't have any direct connection with Christ, he's a wolf. Be careful. The form of godliness is there tremendously in these days. In every denomination, we talk about nominal Christians as those who don't claim to be born again. You see, that's different from churches like Brethren and Pentecostal and CFC and etc., where we stand against nominal Christianity. But I'll tell you, there's as much of the form of godliness in all these churches, including CFC churches, as there is anywhere else. Because as time goes on, people tend to be taken up with the external, the doctrine, more than the inner life. And the moment you find in your thinking, your inner devotion to Jesus becomes secondary to your external testimony before men, you've already started drifting. That's a very good test to test yourself in. I test myself in that all the time. Because I'm living in a corrupt world, just like, why do we take a shower? Why do we bathe? Because you smell otherwise. In a hot country, you perspire, and perspiration doesn't smell nice. You perspire and you sweat and you feel so sticky. You want to be clean. So every day you cleanse yourself and you use soap and get rid of it. We must do something like that every day in our Christian life as well. What do I need to get rid of? I need to ask myself, has my inner devotion to Jesus Christ been replaced by a desire to impress other people that I'm spiritual? Then you're stinking. That's a stink. Then you need to have a bath and come back to the place where the stink of wanting to impress other people has been cleansed away.